All across the United States of America, amusement parks thrill guests that are both GP and enthusiasts alike. Many people in the latter of these two groups purchase a season pass or membership to their home park, which is the park closest to them or the one that they visit the most. The same can be said about some members of the GP or general public. These season passes and even single-day tickets can get quite pricey, however. There are some major differences in the business models of various amusement park chains and single parks, and as these models change, so do the prices. This is part 1 of a 2-part series where I talk about which amusement parks give you the best bang for your buck and which ones should be avoided as far as money goes. For this episode, major chains. To start off, let's go over a general statement for the price to quality ratio. The main one here is that a bigger price tag does commonly mean better quality. One exception to this, though, is Marineland. I know I'm cheating here since Marineland is in Canada and not the US, but I feel like it's the perfect example of spending money to buy garbage. There is no single-day ticket option, at least that I could find, meaning that you have to pay the full price of a season pass, which is $56 without tax. That pass will get you 2 coaster credits, some rundown and low-quality animal exhibits, and a whole lot of walking. Even with having a very unique coaster, it isn't exactly worth $56. For the most part, though, parks that cost more for admission have better rides and atmospheres than cheap parks. Now let's talk about what is probably the most well-known amusement park chain, Six Flags. Since 15 parks is a lot, I won't be talking about all of them, but instead I'll stick to a very small park, 2 middle-tier parks, and 1 very large park. Beginning with the Great Escape, a one-day ticket will cost a total of $66 at the park. For how small this place is, that is very overpriced. A season pass is $150, but what's nice about this pass, and this applies to all Six Flags parks, is that it not only gets you into the Great Escape all year, but also every other Six Flags park. For that reason alone, this season pass is an amazing deal, even if the single-day ticket is overpriced. Next is a mid-lower tier park, Six Flags St. Louis. A single-day ticket will run you $71, which is again very overpriced. It is good that there is only a slight increase from the Great Escape to St. Louis, but both should cost much less, at least in my opinion. A season pass at St. Louis is $145, and I have no idea what's going on here. Since a Six Flags season pass gets you into all parks, why is the one at Great Escape more expensive than Six Flags St. Louis? I have no idea of the actual reasoning, but my best guess is that it's more expensive because it's New York. Now Six Flags Over Georgia. A one-day ticket here is $73. Compared to the other park prices, this one is reasonable, but still pretty overpriced, although I think I may understand why. It's no secret that Six Flags isn't doing amazing in stocks and money in general, and they know people will come in no matter what, so why not jack up the price? The only problem with that strategy is that people just get season passes, which even without a sale pay for themselves and 2 visits if you include parking. This doesn't exactly help Six Flags as much as they would like. Now it gets whacked though, because the Six Flags Over Georgia season pass is not $5 more than the Great Escape, not $10, not even $20, but a whopping $30 more expensive. I get that the park is much better, but this destroys my New York theory and also makes no sense. If you want a cheaper season pass, you might as well just go onto the Six Flags St. Louis website and buy one there instead. The way Six Flags prices their passes just baffles me. Finally, the Six Flags flagship park, Six Flags Magic Mountain. Magic Mountain must draw in way more visitors than any of the other parks because somehow it is higher quality and it can get away with being cheaper than all of them at $63. It gets crazier though. A season pass bought on Six Flags Magic Mountain's website with no sale doubles the price of a season pass in St. Louis. This is pretty much a scam, because if you wanted to pay over $20 for a Six Flags membership, head over to the previously mentioned and much cheaper St. Louis website and get a Gold Plus membership for $65 cheaper than the $290 Magic Mountain average season pass. This is completely ridiculous, and I really have no reasoning to explain it. Getting away from Six Flags' wacky business model, we go over to a higher quality and more understandably priced chain, Cedar Fair. I'm going to do the same thing I did with Six Flags and talk about only a few parks, except I'm doing 3 now instead of 4. The first of these is Valley Fair. Cedar Fair does something interesting with some of their parks, which is a fun day bundle. This pass gives you admission to the park, free parking, and a meal while you are there, so I will be talking about it and its amazing price of $45 rather than the normal one-day ticket. Take a moment to let that sink in. Cedar Fair gives you free parking, a meal, and a better park than the Great Escape for $23 less. That is incredible. A Valley Fair season pass is $90, however I would say that Six Flags St. Louis has a better season pass for one reason. The Valley Fair pass is only for Valley Fair. It does not gain you free access into any other park. It is still nice though and pays for itself in 3 visits. There is a different pass that will get you into all Cedar Fair parks, and this is the Platinum Pass. Unlike Six Flags version, it actually makes sense because the price is consistent throughout the chain. It comes out as $220, which really isn't bad if you are traveling to multiple of the parks. Knott's Berry Farm is next, and it has a $47 ticket when bought online. This is incredible value, as it gets you decent theming, 10 coasters, and some solid flat rides. It is insane to me that they can get by with making a ticket this cheap. A season pass runs you $101, which again is not bad at all. Looking at this, Knott's is possibly the best park ever for value, but there is still more to check out. Ending the Cedar Fair parks is of course Cedar Point. Cedar Point, like Valley Fair, has a fun day bundle despite not being a small park, and this is where Cedar Fair hugely impresses me because this ticket that includes a meal and parking is only $50 measly. That's the same price as some trampoline parks for goodness sake. However, who goes to Cedar Point for only one day? A 2-day any-day ticket is barely more than a Six Flags Over Georgia one-day ticket at $80. That is actually kinda incredible. Just to wow you even more though, a season pass is only $129. You can pay $129 once and go to Cedar Fair every day of the season if you wanted to, riding a collection of 17 different coasters. That is just ridiculous, but it is also amazing. Cedar Fair is absolutely rocking it with their ticket prices, and they aren't falling short on money either. The next major American chain that I want to talk about is the SeaWorld chain. Despite getting some backlash for how they treat their animals in recent years, they are still going strong and adding a coaster at every one of their major parks this year. The chain also owns the Busch Gardens parks in Tampa Bay and Williamsburg. Yet again, I'm going to do the same thing with this chain that I have been doing with the others and only going over a few parks. First is SeaWorld San Antonio. A one-day ticket to San Antonio will run you $61, which isn't terrible, but it may not be the best value. The chain's San Antonio park is generally considered to be the weakest major park in the chain, but hopefully Texas Stingray will have something to say about that in 2020. I'm going to wait to talk about season passes because there's one particular deal that El Toro Ryan would tell you is the best. The next park is SeaWorld San Diego. This is a major jump from San Antonio. One day at SeaWorld San Diego is $74. I can't say too much since I haven't been to the park, but for what it seems to offer, that seems pretty overpriced. Manta does look fun and they're getting a new B&M dive coaster this year, but I still don't really think that this park has a great value, at least for one-day tickets. SeaWorld Orlando is up next. There is no doubt in my mind that this is the best park branded with the SeaWorld name. It may not have an incredible quantity of coasters, but the quality is there. With 3 standout B&Ms followed by a great-looking family water coaster, you can ride all of them and the family-ish coaster Icebreaker, coming in 2020, for $86. Come on, SeaWorld, you were so close to having amazing value. Yeah, that's a lot of money, but you also have to remember that generally this park doesn't get very crowded, meaning that even though it is quite expensive, you can spend the whole day marathoning B&M coasters, which most people would probably consider great. Finally for the SeaWorld chain is Busch Gardens Tampa. Like SeaWorld Orlando, this is the Florida park that is arguably at the top of the chain. However, this park looks 10 times better than the Orlando park. Not only does BGT feature more coasters, they are all amazing looking, and they're getting a coaster in 2020 that quite a few people will probably consider the best in the world. Busch Gardens Tampa is $1 less than SeaWorld Orlando, coming in at $85. Again, that sounds like a lot, and it is, but there really is quality at this park. It is beautiful, and the theming is there to add to the experience. You also more or less have a zoo full of animals like cheetahs. This African-themed park is far from cheap, but the experience arguably makes it worth it. I said there was a different season pass option I wanted to talk about than what any of the parks mentioned offer, so here it is. SeaWorld has a system similar to Cedar Fair, in which the passes have tiers, and the highest is Platinum in this one as well. For whatever reason, Sesame Place has cheaper Platinum passes than any other SeaWorld park. For a Platinum pass that grants you access to all parks in the chain and many other benefits, you will be paying $41.33 a month for 5 months after an initial payment, giving the pass a total end price of $248. At first that sounds shockingly expensive, but when you consider how many amazing benefits it has, and that it is over $100 cheaper than buying the same pass at SeaWorld Orlando, it ain't looking too shabby. I would like to mention one more thing with SeaWorld parks. I've kind of been making excuses to make their prices seem better, but my real guess as to why their parks are more expensive is because of Blackfish. Many people saw this film that hugely criticized the chain, and now they need to bring in as much money as they can. If you want to know more, Airtime Thrills has a great video on SeaWorld, so check that out. The final chains are gonna get pretty ugly. Even people that love these parks know that they are ridiculously overpriced. Especially Disney. At Disneyland, a regular one-day ticket is $130. Sure, the theming and atmosphere is great, but talk about putting a price on family memories. I'm probably not going to talk about Disney in the most positive way, because I'll admit that I wasn't a big fan of any of their Florida parks, but looking over that, $130 is insane. But surely there's something that makes it worth it, right? Let's look at what Disney has. Okay, so maybe that's a slight exaggeration, but seriously, there isn't much, and definitely not enough to make it worth $130. The only plus is that this price does get you into California Adventure and Disneyland. I've ranted about the parks in California, but are the parks in Florida better? Ha, that's funny. How about 4 days, one for each park, for $356? I know I'll get hate for this, but let's be real for a second. That is not worth it in the slightest. For 1 day at Disney, you could get 2 days at Cedar Point. I imagine this price would be lower, but they know people will pay it. After all, Magic Kingdom is the most visited park in the nation, and I believe the world, but correct me on that if I'm wrong. I'm going to stop with Disney now before my channel gets cancelled and move on to Universal. I actually really enjoyed the Universal parks, as they are meant for people closer to my age. If you love dark rides, this is the place for you, but what's great is that Universal also mixes in thrills like the Incredible Hulk. You may not have Hulk in Hollywood, but that still looks like a great park, and it costs $109 to $129, depending on the day. Okay, I do have to admit that is still a large chunk of money, and it really isn't worth that much, but at least it's better than Disney. The Orlando Park and Islands of Adventure Park Hopper ticket costs $174. Again, not cheap, but there's value, especially at Islands of Adventure. It definitely is going to be expensive, but I really think that the Universal parks are worth it for what they are, although maybe consider the SeaWorld and FunSpot parks as cheaper options if all you want is coaster credits. That's it for part 1. I actually didn't talk about one chain, but I'm cheating and saving it for part 2. If you enjoyed this video or it helped you plan a trip, please let me know by leaving a comment and consider subscribing if you are new. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Also, thanks for 300 subscribers, guys. I really appreciate it.